This video is about reviewing the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula can be used to solve quadratic equations to find a solution. When you're using the quadratic formula, your equation needs to be in standard form and equal to 0. So standard form means that we have ax squared plus bx plus c. So we go in order from x squared to our constant is equal to 0, and then we can substitute into our quadratic formula, which is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So let's try some examples. In number 1, we have x squared minus 13x plus 42 equals 0. So when we look here, we want the coefficients. So our a value is in front of the x squared, that's going to be 1. Our b value in front of the x is negative 13, and our c value is 42. So we're going to substitute those into the quadratic formula. So when we do that, we have negative 13 plus or minus the square root of negative 13 squared minus 4 times 1 times 42 all over 2 times 1. So when we go to simplify, I'm going to type everything that's underneath the radical in first. So I have negative 13 squared minus 4 times 1 times 42, and I get 1. So I'm going to have negative 13 becomes positive 13 plus or minus the square root of 1 over 2. So in order to get my x values, I want to split this fraction into 2 to get my two solutions. So I'm going to have 13 plus the square root of 1 over 2 and 13 minus the square root of 1 over 2. So in my calculator, I would do the numerator first. 13 plus the square root of 1 divided by 2 gets us 7. And then I would do 13 minus the square root of 1 divided by 2, and that gets us 6. So x is equal to 7 or 6. In number 2, we have 4x squared minus 13x plus 3. So in this case, our a value is 4, our b value is negative 13, our c value is 3. So when we substitute into the equation, I have negative 13 plus or minus the square root of negative 13 squared minus 4 times 3, all over 2 times the a value, so 2 times 4. So when I simplify this, I get 13 plus or minus. In the calculator, I'm going to have negative 13 squared minus 4 times 5 times 3. Sorry, 4 times 4 times 3. And I get the square root of 121 divided by 8. So I'm going to split this in 2. 13 plus the square root of 121 divided by 8. 13 minus the square root of 121 divided by 8. So I'm going to have 13 plus the square root of 121 divided by 8 is 3. And I have 13 minus the square root of 121 divided by 8. That's a fraction, so I'm going to hit math, enter, enter to get our fraction of 1/4. So x is equal to 3 and 1/4. In number 3, we have negative 3x squared plus 8 equals negative 2. So right now our equation is not equal to 0. So I'm going to move the negative 2x to the other side by adding it. So I now have negative 3x squared plus 2x plus 8 is equal to 0. So in this case, my a value is negative 3, my b value is 2, and my c value is 8. So I can now substitute into the quadratic formula. So I would have negative parenthesis 2 plus or minus the square root of 2 squared minus 4 times negative 3 times 8 all over 2a, so 2 times negative 3. So when I simplify, I have negative 2 plus or minus the square root. We're going to simplify in our calculator, so 2 squared minus 4 times negative 3 times 8. which is 100, divide by negative 6. We're going to split this into 2. Negative 2 plus the square root of 100 over negative 6, and negative 2 minus the square root of 100 over negative 6. So in our calculator, negative 2 plus the square root of 100 divided by negative 6. Math, enter, enter. That's going to get us negative 4/3. And negative 2 minus the square root of 100 divided by negative 6, which will get us positive 2. So x is equal to negative 4/3 and 2. In number 4, we have 9x squared minus 25 equals 0. So notice we're missing that x term. So our a value is going to be 9. Because we're missing the x term, our b value is 0. And our c value is negative 25. So when we substitute in, we have negative 0 plus or minus the square root of 0 squared minus 4 times 9 times negative 25 over 2 times 9. So negative 0 is just 0 plus or minus the square root. We're going to do parentheses 0 squared minus 4 times 9 times negative 25, which gets us 900. And we have 2 times 9, which gets us 18. When we split this into two answers, we are going to have 0 plus the square root of 900 divided by 18, and 0 minus the square root of 900 over 18. So we have 0 minus the square root of 900, or plus the square root of 900, divided by 18. It's a decimal, math, enter, enter. That's going to be 5/3. If we notice this is the same thing, but it's subtraction instead, so we might be able to even just guess that the answer, or we put in the calculator 0 minus the square root of 900 divided by 18, math, enter, enter, which makes sense. This would be negative 5/3. So x is equal to 5/3 and negative 5/3. 9, we have 9x squared minus equal to 5/3 in this case.